welcome Andy, Head of Performance for Cricket Scotland and Chairman of the Future Structures Group. SNCL Reconstruction, which is obviously the Scottish National Cricket League, is currently a bit of a hot topic in the cricket circles at the moment in Scotland. With clubs and Cricket Scotland, how do you think we can improve the game domestically?
It's a good question, Ben. I think it's important, firstly, I suppose, to recognise that the SNCL currently has 32 of the Premier Cricket clubs in Scotland in it. So, from that point of view, while not exclusively our best clubs, they're certainly our best resource clubs, and I think they have the greatest ability to help us develop the game. So from that point of view, that level of cricket is very, very important to us. So I think it's essential that the pinnacle of the club game reflects the standard of Scottish cricket. So I think it's important that's as good as it can be.
What would you say exactly is the rationale for change to the SNCL this time around?
Yeah, I think there's been lots of change and talk of change over the sort of 13-14 years of the SNCL, and we've sort of tinkered around with principally divisions of 10 in a sort of 3-division structure with anywhere between 30 and 34 teams. Last year there was a significant change to 2 leagues of 16, which has proved to be quite unpopular, although it was done for the best of intentions, I believe. So I think what Cricket Scotland then did, I think the board looked at it and said, well, what we need to do is we need to put a group in place who can look at current structures, look at future structures, and decide what the best way forward is for the top end of the recreational game in Scotland.
So Andy, why are we looking to change from a 32-team structure anyway?
Yeah, it's a very good question. I think most people you speak to would agree that there probably isn't 32 teams of a standard who should be playing in a national league, and that's with the best will in the world. But certainly both Cricket Scotland and the Future Structures Group expressed concern about falling standards, particularly at the bottom end of the National League, and I think there's a strong feeling that 32 teams is too many to be in a National League. So any structure moving forward would have a smaller number of teams than that. Now that's not to belittle the efforts of those sides who would be pushed back into regional cricket, but it's just to say that there's a more appropriate form of competition where they can get the cricket they need to help develop their club long term.
There's been a set up of the Future Structures Group, which is obviously separate for Cricket Scotland. Can you tell us a bit about the purpose of that? Yeah,
the Future Structures Group was set up deliberately not to distance Cricket Scotland from the process, because we are the national governing body, but to get a real flavour from the body of the kirk, if you like, as to what people actually thought about it. So there was 9 people on the group who came from a variety of different clubs and from 3 of the key league associations, who were tasked with looking at the current structure, looking at potential future structures, and then deciding the best way forward for the game in Scotland. And that was it was an interesting process. It was a very healthy debate. It was full of frank discussions and exchanges. As you can imagine, there was all sorts of different views expressed, which was healthy. So I think the Future Structures Group has now been through a consultation process with our clubs and has come up with 2 proposals to take to the clubs at the SNCL meeting on the 9th of October.
Yeah, that's great. What exactly are those two proposals, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, that's fine. I think that there was a report done which was produced a couple of weeks ago by the Future Structures Group, which suggested 3 potential options for the SNCL moving forward. I think that's now since been narrowed down to 2. So to cut a long story short, the 2 options are that there will either be a national league which will be reduced to 2 divisions of 10, or there will be 2 regional Premier Leagues formed in the west and on the east side of the country, with those Premier Leagues in the west being amalgamated into the existing Western District Cricket Union structure, and in the east a combination of the Strathmore and Perthshire Union and the East of Scotland Cricket Association. Now those 2 regional Premier Leagues would be worked in partnership with Cricket Scotland, and there'll be a play-off at the end of the season to decide a national champion. So those are the 2 options which will be put to the clubs.
Excellent. What would you consider? Do you think the clubs? How do the clubs feel about this? Would you say they were instigating change? Or?
Yeah, well, there's a mixture of feelings. I think certainly that the clubs have been keen for change this time round. As I say, the 16-team structure hasn't proved popular, and it was one of the first things that the FSG did, the Future Structures Group, was look at it, and I think that there's a strong belief that leagues of either 10 or a maximum of 12 are probably the best way forward, because they produce an 18 or a 22-week season with home and away fixtures, and I think people believe that that's the best and fairest system for club cricket. So certainly, revolving around 2 leagues of or as many leagues of 10 or 12 as possible was certainly the best way forward. So I think the clubs did hanker for that change. I think as to what the change is, I think there's huge differences of opinion. There are obviously some clubs who are very pro-National League and want to keep a National League structure, and there are some clubs who would much rather go back to a more localised form of competition with sort of open leagues in the west and east of the country. So I think the clubs are very divided. Obviously, I think the clubs towards the top end of the National League who are currently being successful quite like the National League, understandably, because they think it's good for their club. And I guess lots of other clubs who are struggling a little bit to keep up with the pace are just toiling with the National League a bit, and I think would like to invest their resources more on the long-term development of their club, because I think that's probably where Cricket Scotland as the national governing body, I mean, we've clearly identified that we'd like our clubs to play on a more regionalised basis, because we feel that would be best for the long-term development of the game, to build a broader structure for the game and to build a broader base of talent, rather than, as what we believe is happening at the moment, is moving that talent around to the top clubs in the country. But there are clubs who believe that the National League is a good thing and is the way forward, and we respect their view, and if that is the view that the clubs come up with at the forum on October the 9th, then we'll respect that and work as hard as we can with the clubs to build the best structure moving forward. I think it's important for us to remember that in the end, restructuring leagues per se doesn't actually improve anything. It just puts the same players on different grounds on different weekends, and that what actually improves the game is clubs improving their infrastructure, having better coaching structures, having better facilities for the players to play on, looking at a broader view of development and trying to build a broader base of talent that will eventually raise the standards of Scottish cricket. So I think it's important that we remember that reconstruction per se doesn't actually make anything better, but it can certainly help, but it doesn't actually make anything better in itself.
Sure. With your Cricket Scotland hat on for a quick second, how do you see the future of Scottish club cricket?
Well, I think we've clearly sort of stated our vision that we believe the more localised competition structure is the best way forward. But as I've said, if the National League is retained, we'll work hard with our clubs. I think that there are 2 things that Cricket Scotland want for Scottish cricket, and that is to build a broader base for the game, so to have as many people as we can playing and enjoying cricket in whatever forum that is. And we need to remember that the National Cricket League is less than 10% of the players that play every weekend, so it's the tip of the iceberg in terms of Scottish cricket. So we want as broad a base of talent and as many people to enjoy the game as possible, but we also want to raise the standard of Scottish cricket. We're ambitious about the future of Scottish cricket, we're ambitious about the future of the national team, and we want our clubs to help us build a stronger infrastructure, have more talented players around, and that will give us, inevitably, if I'm selfish and put my performance hat on, that will give us more good young players to choose from. So I think if we can do those 2 things, increase participation and then raise the standard, if we do that, then we're not doing much wrong.
Excellent. Well, thanks very much for your time, Andy. I'm sure we'll catch up with you soon in the future.
Cheers.
Bye.